Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So I've gone through the handicap marks for the week, and I think I found 11. Let me just count them up: 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 horses this week that I think are interesting, having had their handicap marks dropped. Try and find horses that can go on, essentially bounce back. Some of them don't need to bounce back; they've run perfectly respectable races. But the handicapper still dropped them. So let's go through them, and hopefully I've also highlighted their future targets, and I'll explain why I think those races. So the first horse I want to talk about is a horse called Benson. Now, he's been a little bit disappointing this season so far. I thought his fifth at Cheltenham on his return was it was a plenty good enough effort. You can see he actually reduced 72% in the run from his starting price. He travelled well for a long way, but it was his first run for nearly a year. And, I thought it was a perfectly respectable effort. They then decided to drop him in trip for the race at Sandown that he'd won previously. And I think it's demonstrating that he needs softer going over this 2-mile trip. He really struggles. He gets outpaced. He runs on a little bit. He didn't run on as much at Ascot as he did at Sandown, but he's one that I think just needs a step up in trip. I know he also needs the soft, heavy going that we haven't really got yet this National Hunt season, but I just think he needs that step back up in trip, and he'll run better. Where could he run? I think there's an obvious target for him. We know he ran well at Ascot in a race that worked out well with Not So Sleepy, Buzz, Belfast Banter, that he disappointed in this year. Step him up in trip, return to Ascot, and you can run here. The Sky Bet, it's not a Sky Bet, I don't think. It's the Holloway's Handicap Hurdle, over 2 miles 3. It's a decent prize. It looks obvious. The step up and trip will suit him, and I'm sure he will bounce back very soon. It may be that he does need this soft, heavy going, but he has won on good to firm, albeit at Hereford in a nothing race. But I think it's the trip that is more important to him now. Step him back up in trip, and I think he'll run a much better race now that he's fit. He just seems to require so much stoking along that I don't believe it's the going that's doing that. I really think the ground is a major factor. The trip is a major factor rather than the ground, personally. Moving on to the second horse that I want to talk about, Metier. I thought he ran really well for fourth in the 2-mile handicap hurdle at Ascot at the weekend. Was beaten by the right type of horses. Tritonic, On the Road Again, and who was third? Gary Claremont. Nothing wrong with that form at all, in my opinion. I think they all came into it off the back of strong form lines. And again, I think there's an obvious target for Metier. He dropped £3 for that to 139. Surely he's got to go to the Imperial Cup. A former Tolworth hurdle winner, or the current Tolworth hurdle winner. He won the Tolworth in January of this year before turning up for the Cheltenham Festival in the Supreme Novice and sent off just 11-2 for the Supreme Novice. Imagine then running in a handicap back at the course that you've won at, off 139. Last year, he would have carried 11 stone 5. The year before that, if we got a similar sort of rival, he would carry just 10 stone 5, which for a Grade 1 winner the year before, albeit the Tolworth hurdle and maybe demonstrating in the Supreme Novice that he isn't quite a Grade 1 horse, I think he would be I think he'd be really well handicapped for that race. The Imperial Cup's never the strongest handicap. I definitely don't think it would be as strong as the handicap we had on Saturday. And I think he would be a really good bet in that race, and really hope that he runs it. The third horse that I want to talk about is a horse called Third Wind. Now, if you remember, I actually put this horse up for the Pertemps final last year. And after he won at Haydock, they didn't run. Obviously, he'd gone up to, I think he went up to 153 after winning that. Probably, that would have been too much. Plus, it was a Grade 2, so they might as well run it in the Grade 1 race. They actually missed Cheltenham, went straight to Aintree. That didn't work. He pulled up, and then recently on his return at Ascot, he also disappointed, finishing 7th. But the handicap had dropped him £3 back to 146. That's the same mark he won the Rendlesham off. Now, I don't want him to run in the Rendlesham. I don't think he can be a Grade 1 winner at Cheltenham or Aintree, but I do think he could win a Pertemps off that same 146 mark. So for me, there's an obvious plan for him. He's finished 2nd here in a feature handicap at Haydock. He's won at Haydock. Let's run him in the qualifier, the Pertemps qualifier, here on the 19th of February. Try not to win the race. Finish 4th, 5th. I don't think it will get the biggest field anyway, and he's plenty good enough to contest a Pertemps qualifier. I don't even think they would have to be fully fit, and he would still get through as in get a handicap mark and get a top 6 finish and qualify. He'll be high enough in the handicap. If he turned up in the Pertemps final, having qualified at Ascot, at Haydock, off 144, I think he'd go really close in the Pertemps final. I know I've got a few lined up for the Pertemps final, hoping they all don't turn up. If they do, then it'll be a good race, hopefully. But I think 3rd win down to 146, they've got to be looking at that Pertemps final again. Go and get him qualified like they did previously. I think it was it this one here that they got him qualified? Let's have a look. He finished 5th at Newbury. Was this a Pertemps qualifier? Yes. So if they could do that again, finish 5th in a Pertemps qualifier at Haydock, I think he'd turn up to the final with a massive chance, personally. Moving on to the next horse, Goshen. I think they will regret running him on the going that they had. Good to soft, soft in places. I think he wants that really soft, not quite heavy, but soft conditions. Obviously, his best performance recently came on heavy going at Wincanton when he was, very, very impressive. He's not got anywhere near that level recently, and as such, he has now dropped another £4 to 149. And in handicaps, he's starting to look very appealing. Now, personally, I think they'll enter him in all the big handicaps over the next so many months, over 2 mile. And as soon as they get the likely soft going, soft heavy, I think that's where they'll end up taking the chance. Wouldn't surprise me now if they keep entering him, they get to the day and they pull him out purely because of the going. If it's not soft enough for him, there's almost no point running him and continually dropping in the handicap. I think he can win off 149. The Betfair hurdle is an obvious one that he could run in, as is the More Battle hurdle up at Kelso. If they got soft going up at Kelso, I think that would be very interesting, particularly with the prize money boost that Kelso Racecourse has just received, with the More Battle worth a further 33% on top of what it was last year, and it was worth a decent prize last year. There is always that bonus as well if you win the More Battle hurdle and go on to win at the Cheltenham Festival. Any race at the Cheltenham Festival, I think there's a £100,000 bonus. They could do that and run in the county hurdle if they were to win the More Battle. But I think they'll be happy to take the prize money for the More Battle hurdle on its own personally. And this was just showing that the Betfair hurdle is a potential race on Saturday the 12th of February for him. The next horse I want to talk about is in the same colours, also trained by Gary Moore. It's 50 Ball. Now, he disappointed, finishing 5th of 5 in a Grade 2 at Ascot. And I don't think that was the plan. I don't think they were actually targeting the Grade 2. I think they might have been looking to get his handicap mark down a little bit. And if so, they succeeded. They managed to get it dropped another £2 to 131. Now, I do think there is a relatively obvious handicap for him as well. And it's the Novice Handicap Chase. I think it's on Imperial Cup Day. So just before the Cheltenham Festival. And it's this one here. It's 2.5 mile at Sandown. But it's worth 22,000. Well, this Grade 2 here was only worth 29 to the winner. And these races were worth less than 10 grand, I think, both of them. They could go and win this 22,000 handicap at Sandown. Look at his form at Sandown. He won and he was third. And when he was third, I thought he ran eye-catchingly, running on strongly on chase debut as a 5-year-old, as a 6-year-old. I thought there was plenty to like about that effort. Go back to Sandown on Imperial Cup Day, pick up this 2.5 handicap, and then they can progress with him. But I think dropping another £2 was very eye-catching for 50 Ball, who I don't think was being aimed at that grade 2 at all, personally. The next horse, we are probably halfway through, is Vintage Clouds. He dropped £2 to 143, which is the same mark he won the Old Teamer off. Granted, he was a big price, but we were on him in the Old Teamer. I posted that or highlighted that on the Turf Talk podcast with James and Lewis. And if he turned back up again off 143, I'd have another bet on him. He doesn't owe us anything. We were on at 33s. We went off 50s on Betfair, or 49 to 1 that is on Betfair. I think that would be a fantastic plan or plot from the owners, or not the owner, but the trainer especially. I don't think any of these were targets. I think returning to Cheltenham is. We know he runs well there. He's finished third. He finished second here. I think he'd also finished third here. He's won it. He could turn back up of 143. I think he'd go very, very close. The next horse I want to talk about is Cloth Cap. He's dropped £3 to 147, which is actually £1 lower than what he ran off in the Grand National. And he went off in the Grand National, what price did he go off? 11 to 2. He's currently, if you've got a Bet365 account, 66 to 1 for it, off a £1 lower mark, a year older. And I thought he ran well for a long way in the Grand National last year. When they get older, they do generally stay a bit further. Plus, I think they'll give him a slightly more conservative ride to try and help him get the trip. But he went so far through the race going well that I wouldn't give up on him if I was the connections of Cloth Cap. Give him another go in the Grand National and see what they can do with him. I think the telltale sign, whether he's going for that, will be whether they return to Kelso. And I think they will. I think they'll return to Kelso this year. I think they'll win again at Kelso and then end up in the Grand National, not at 66 to 1 or 33 to 1 that's readily available. I think people will suddenly start latching on and he'll go off 16s, especially if he wins at Kelso, where he would obviously, that would be after the handicap weights. So whatever weight he is up to that race is what he would carry in the Grand National. And I think that will be 147 because I don't think they will run again until the Kelso race. But he's very interesting for the Grand National, especially being that year older. That, I think, is the crucial factor for me. He's that year older. He's had the experience. I think he will stay a bit further this year. And I think he'll run a big race if he does turn up there. The next horse that's caught my eye is Not a Chance. Now, some people will say, if I advised him for a race, not a chance. And his last 4 runs, they haven't been great. He's pulled up 3 of them, and he was 6th recently at Haydock, when he didn't really get involved at 50 to 1. Now, that means he's dropped back to a mark of 139. He dropped £3 for that run. The last time he ran off 139 was in the Classic Chase at Warwick, where he went off 7 to 2 and won. I think that's where he'll go again. I think back up in trip. He hasn't quite been getting the right trip. These 2 runs, not quite far enough. And back on soft going, back off 139. I think there's plenty of positives there for his chance in the Classic Chase. And surely that's where they go. I don't think we really need to discuss that any further. Surely that's where they end up. The next horse I want to talk about is Storm Control, who has now pulled up 3 times of his last 5. He's finished 10th and 5th, but he dropped another £3 to 132. And I've had a look at Cheltenham, where he runs well, and I can't find a race for him. I don't think he'll run in the Kimure this year, in the Kimure, where he was 5th last year, but I do think he might end up at Doncaster. Now, he's only had the 1 run at Doncaster back here, and he won it when he beat Sky Pirate. Yeah, I know Sky Pirate has dropped in trip and been a revelation over the shorter trip, but it was only 3 furlongs. It's not like he was running over 3 mile. It was only 2 mile 3, and yet Storm Control beat Sky Pirate that day. I don't think he'll get in the Sky Bet handicap chase. I think he'll just miss out on that because of his low mark. But I do wonder if we will see him in the Grimthorpe chase in March, early March, where he can try and make all, just like the last 2 winners have as well. So that's where I think Storm Control will go. I think his handicap mark of 132 does make him interesting. I mean, he went off 100 to 32 runs ago at Cheltenham. You don't get smashed off the boards like that if you're not showing anything at home. I definitely don't want to give up on Storm Control. Not sure Ascot was even the plan. I just think he's run there. You know, he didn't get backed. I don't think that was his day. I do think it might be if he goes to Doncaster. 2 to go, and both of these have dropped £6. The first one I want to talk about is Dolos, who he's now had 4 runs at Ascot. He's been beaten 35, 10, 28 and 45 lengths. Those last 2 runs, for me, were not races that he was trying to win. I think they're getting his handicap mark down, and he dropped £6 to 143, which means he can run in this race at Sandown, this one here, and here, that he's won and finished second in the last 2 years. It's this one here, on Saturday the 5th of February. Now, he would run off a mark of 143. Last year, when he finished second, he ran off a mark of 158, £15 higher. And the year before, when he won, he ran off a mark of 157, £14 higher. If he runs in this handicap chase at Sandown, I'd expect him to take all of the beating. I'm sure that's the plan. I'm sure returning for 2 Sandown was the plan. And yeah, I'd be very disappointed if he doesn't go there and doesn't run a very big race. His form at Sandown reads 2-2, 1-7, 1-2-7. Both of his 7s, grade 1 events. This is a handicap of 143 it would be. You just look at his handicap form, 2-2, 1-1-2. Very, very good at Sandown, and they were all of higher marks. So that looks an obvious one for me for Dolos, but hopefully not to everyone. And his recent poor form, 6-7-8, 7-8, will put people off him. We might get a bit of a bigger price. What's he gone off the last 2 years? 3-1, but he did come in with 4-4-4 and 7-2, but he'd come in off 1-2-7, and that 7 was in a grade 1. So I'm hoping we'd get a bit of a bigger price if he does run at Sandown. The final horse I want to talk about is Regal Encore, the 13 turning 14-year-old. He's dropped £6 to 140. He didn't run badly here on soft. But then let's have a look at his recent runs. Soft, he ran well. Soft, he ran well. Heavy, he ran well. Good, he pulled up. Soft, heavy. We have to go back to here. 2019, good to soft, when he ran a good race. The last time he ran well on faster conditions. So I think now he just struggles early. He needs that softer ground to slow everything down. Where do I think he'll run? I think it's this race, isn't it? The Swinley Handicap Chase at Sandown on Saturday the 19th of February. He ran in this race last year. He finished second. He was beaten ahead by Captain Chaos off a mark of 150. He's now 140. He's £10 lower than when finishing second. He's £7 lower than when finishing third at Ascot. I think as soon as he gets a bit softer conditions, I think he will still be able to run to a decent level as a 14-year-old. It'd be quite an impressive one. I think we had Perfect Candidate last year. Was he 14? Win for us at Haydock. If not, there was a 13-year-old that we definitely had. Trying to think of the name. So, older horses can win, and if you find the right races for them, you can get them to win, particularly when they've dropped in a handicap. So there's my horses for this week. I know this is quite a long video. I hope you've stuck with me. There's Benson, Metier, third wind. Let's go through them. Benson for the Holloway's Handicap Hurdle. Metier for the Imperial Cup. Third win for the Temps Final with a qualifier at Haydock. Goshen to Newbury or Kelso for the Betfair Hurdle or Mall Battle Hurdle. 50 Ball for the Novice Handicap Chase at Sandown on Imperial Cup Day. Vintage Clouds will be interesting if he returns to the old team off the same mark. Cloth Cap is now £1 lower for the Grand National, and yet you can actually get him at 66. If he runs at Kelso, the Grand National looks like the plan. Not a Chance won the Classic Chase last year off the same mark at 7-2. I think he'll be much bigger this year. Storm Control to the Skybet Handicap Chase or the Grinthorpe if he doesn't get in. Dolos back to Sandown off a lower handicap mark. And Regal Encore back to Ascot for a race he was second in last year off a £10 higher mark. So they're my thoughts. This will probably be my last video before Christmas. So I hope you all have a fantastic Christmas. And the ratings should be available about 12:30 in the morning on Christmas Day. Thanks very much for listening. Thanks for all your support this year, and have a fantastic Christmas.